Greetings, fellow humans. My name is Alistair Lord and I am the Renaissance Yorkshireman. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my personal experience of water fasting. And this is a very straightforward video. Basically it's in three parts. So the first part was when I was living in Saudi Arabia in 1998. And that was when I first experimented with water fasting. I didn't have any protocols at that time, I just did it. My second experience was when I was living in Bangkok, Thailand, 2005, 2006, around about that time. And I was working for the British Council in Bangkok. I was an English language teacher. And again, with this second part, I hadn't really done my research and I wasn't using any protocols. And finally, the third part of my experience starts around about November 2017, when I first started reading and researching intermittent fasting, and I started doing some intermittent fasting. And then the following summer, so the summer of 2018, I did some extended water fasts, but that time I had done more research and I was using protocols. My first experience of water fasting, Saudi Arabia in 1998. Now, if you've never been to Saudi Arabia, all I can say is it's a very strange country and it's really difficult to kind of explain the strange and paranoid places that your mind goes to when you're living in a country like that, which is of course a police state. At that time, the second half of 1998, I was living in a small town called Al Fanatir, which was actually quite a beautiful place. It was extremely well designed. It was on the coast. There was a long corniche. I could cycle along the corniche to where I used to work. It was very nice. It's quite close to the industrial city of Jubail. And I worked in a language school. It was called the European Centre. So I was one of, 15 or 20 teachers. Most of us were British, a few Canadians, I think, if I remember rightly. And all of my students were male Saudi Arabians most of them were between 18 and 25. But I did sometimes have older students and all of them were men. Now, Saudi Arabia at that time, almost nobody had a mobile phone. The internet was very limited. There was no Skype. If you wanted to make a phone call home, you had to go to one of these shops which had these booths with phones in. So it was a very different place than Saudi Arabia is today. But additionally, there's no theatres, there's no cinemas, there's no live music. And it's illegal to speak with a woman who is not either A blood relative, or B, your wife. And given that I was a foreigner living in Saudi Arabia and I was unmarried at the time, that meant it was completely illegal for me to actually speak to a woman. So I didn't actually speak to a woman face to face for about, 8 months when I lived in Saudi Arabia. I mean, altogether quite a bizarre experience. But my point is here, there were very, very few leisure options, right? I mean, I read a lot of books and I was a member of the local gym. So I went to the gym 2 or 3 times a week. I went swimming. I played squash now and again, but really it was quite a boring place to live. I went in and I did my lessons, but it was a very boring place to live. Then one day, for whatever reason, just this thought popped in at my head, why don't you do a fast? So I thought, right, I'm gonna do a fast. So one day I just stopped eating food and I just drank water. And I drank water and ate no food for 5 days. And on the 5th day, some really quite strange and bizarre effects happened, which I will tell you about in a moment. But first of all, one of the things when I fasted the first time is I had no protocol. So all I was doing, I was drinking water, that was it. I didn't drink tea and coffee, I didn't drink anything else, water only. Now, later on, when I did more research, I found out about protocols you can use, and it is really important to drink salt water when you're fasting, if you're doing a water fast, because your body needs the sodium and the potassium. Now, if you don't drink salt water, as I didn't this first time when I fasted, you will get muscular aches and pains. Now, that's what happened to me as I remember. And also because I'd stopped drinking caffeine, I got headaches. Now, I'll talk more about this in tomorrow's videos about protocols, but those were the main side effects for the first 4 days. And I think after day 2 or day 3, I stopped going for a shit because I had no food passing through my stomach anymore. So the first 4 days, the main effects were 1, I got muscular aches and pains, and 2, I had headaches. Now, on day 5, I was walking in one of the corridors in the European Centre where I was working, because while I was fasting, I was still working. And all of a sudden, I felt my stomach turn over. It just went, and I knew that I had about 1 minute to get to the toilet before I shit myself. Now, as it was, very luckily, I was just near the toilet. No one was in it, so I went in, locked the door, sat down, and just diarrhea, just shitting really strongly. And the thing that I noticed while I was doing this was the smell. Now, I have never before or since smelled shit as bad that came out of my ass as I did on day 5 of that fast in Saudi Arabia. I mean, the stench was terrible. And my body just kept on shitting until there was nothing left. Then I wiped my ass, I got up, I did up my trousers, I washed my hands, I looked in the toilet. It was green. Now, shit is normally brown, right? I mean, you take a shit, I take a shit most days, right? So we know that shit is brown. This stuff was green, and the smell, I mean, it was horrendous. Anyway, I flushed the bog, left, and it actually scared me that, this stuff should just come out of my ass. So I broke my fast that day. So that was a 5-day fast. But in fact, when I'd started, I hadn't actually set a limit on it. I just thought, right, I'm going to fast. Now, here's the thing. I discussed this later with people who had experience of fasting. And they said, for many people, this is quite normal. Now, it may not be normal every time you do a fast, but certainly it's not uncommon the first time that you do an extended fast, because your body is purging all this stuff, all this, waste matter that's stored in your stomach. In any case, I'm glad I got rid of it because it was green and it smelt really bad. My second experience of fasting took part in Bangkok, and I used to work for the British Council. I was an English language teacher. I worked for them for about 3.5 years, and I fasted twice in this period when I was working in Bangkok. And the first time I fasted for 7 days. And again, I had no protocol. I wasn't drinking any salt water. I was only drinking water, and I had the same side effects. I had muscular aches and pains, and I had headaches from the caffeine withdrawal. In fact, I think I may only have been off caffeine for about 2 days before I started drinking tea again. But I did lose a lot of weight. I used to have a colleague who I used to work with, and she was a bit chubby, let's say, and she was obsessed with weight. She was always talking about weight, and she commented, "Oh, you've lost weight." So I was quite pleased about that. And then I broke my fast on day 8 and started eating again. More or less a year later, I did the same thing. I started fasting. I was only drinking water. I had the muscular aches and pains, and I had the headaches from the caffeine withdrawal. And one thing I do remember about this second fast that I did in Bangkok was, I think I broke it on day 6. And the reason that I broke it wasn't because I was hungry. It was because I was so bored of not eating. Because here's the thing, I actually really love food. I love eating food. It's great. I mean, I kind of enjoy fasting as well. It's a bit of a strange experience. And I think it's good for your health. And the evidence says that it is good for your health if you do it properly within certain parameters with particular protocols. But this occasion, I just got bored and I started eating. And then I didn't do any fasting for like over 10 years. And then finally in 2017, I think in November, I started watching some videos on YouTube about intermittent fasting. And I thought, I'm going to give that a spin. So I did. And my personal experience of intermittent fasting goes something like this. I find it difficult to do every day, but I'm fine with that. I don't feel that I need to do it every day. Now, if I do intermittent fasting 2, 3, 4 days every week, I'm happy with that. And also, I try and vary the eating window. Normally, the maximum eating window you want with intermittent fasting is 8 hours. So sometimes I would have an 8-hour window, you know, eat at 11 in the morning, eat at 7 in the evening. But then other days I would have lunch at 1 o'clock and then eat at 7 in the evening. So it was a 6-hour eating window. And occasionally I'll do 1 meal a day. So I've got a 23-hour window, although I don't do that very often. I know some people who do. So that's more or less my experience with intermittent fasting. Now the following summer, so the summer of 2018, so about 3 years ago, I started doing semi-regular longer fasts. So in the last more or less, let's say 3 years, I've probably done at least a dozen, but maybe 15, possibly more, fasts that have been between 3 and 7 days long. And I've done one 9-day fast. One of the things that I've learned from my experience, and this also is borne out by what I've read and videos that I've seen people talking about fasting, is day 2, day 3, and day 4 are the worst. You feel hungry on these days. Now, on day 5, if you get to day 5, your hunger decreases. Now, I've never gone past 9 days, but from what I've read and what I've researched, you can usually go, it depends on the person, but anywhere between maybe 15 and 25 days, and you stay in this zone where you really have very little appetite. Now, if you manage to get past that particular zone, your appetite goes up because all of a sudden you are in danger of dying, right? So if you're gonna do longer fasts, you really need to know your protocol. And I don't recommend them. I haven't done anything longer than a 9-day fast. But I think a 5 to 7 day fast is long enough to feel some of these benefits. Now, as I say, day 2, 3, and 4 are the worst, particularly if you come off caffeine. Now, if you come off caffeine and you're fasting, day 2, 3, and 4, your concentration span is gonna be for shit, right? So if you're planning on working, right, you're not going to get anything constructive done. I mean, you've got to put time aside and just, you know, accept that you're not going to do any constructive work during that time. Now, it should be that once you get to day 5, your appetite will go and your energy level will come back up and you will have a clear mind. My experience is, if you're going to do more than, let's say, about 4 days, and you don't come off caffeine, you will have problems. Your body will react in a negative way to this. Now, when I did some of these shorter fasts, 2, 3, 4 days, sometimes I was off caffeine, sometimes I was on caffeine. Now, when I was still on caffeine, I didn't feel as bad as when I came off. But as I say, if you're going to go 5 days or longer, I absolutely do recommend that you come off caffeine. So to sum up, my experience has taught me that I'm good with 1-day fasts. 1-day fasts, normally when I do them, it's between 36 and 40 hours. I don't come off caffeine. I find them relatively easy, and I don't have these really bad hunger problems and concentration problems that I would do if I were doing a 2, 3, or 4 day fast. So I do a lot of 1-day fasts. If I'm going to do a longer fast, I aim for at least 5 days, but ideally I try to do a week, because here's the thing, if you're gonna go through the hunger pains and the aggravation of day 2, 3 and 4, you might as well get as many good days as you can, because day 5, 6 and 7 are, oddly enough, easy in comparison to day 2, 3 and 4. So my recommendation, if you are going to start fasting, is stick with 1 day fasts, 36 to 40 hour fast thereabouts, or aim to do a minimum of 5 days, because day 2, 3 and 4 will absolutely be the worst. Thank you for giving me your time today. Peace.